18. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Atmanam prakriti svata nithaya shreya apnutya Rajna tata prakritayo naradeva hitathaya. Atmanam himself Prakritishu under these seven royal elements. Atha directly. Nithaya placing. Shreya ultimately happiness. Ultimate happiness. Abnuyat may obtain. Ragna by the king. Tata so also. Prakritaya the dependent royal elements. Naradeva O king. Ahita athayo offering wealth and other items. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O King, O Lord of humanity, when a king directly depends upon his associates and follows their instructions, he is happy. Similarly, when his associates offer their gifts and activities to the king and follow his orders, they are also happy. Purport. The actual happiness of a king and his dependents is described in this verse. A king should not simply give orders to his dependents because he is supreme. Sometimes he must follow their instructions. Similarly, dependents should depend on the king. Their mutual dependence will make everyone happy. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Vanchikalvatarupyascha Krivasimdevacha Patitanam Bhavyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudhi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. I took some notes. Just I'll read the verse again. What verse was it? 18. Atmanam prakriti svata nithaya shreya aduyat Ragna tata prakritayo naradeva hitathaya. O King, O Lord of humanity, when a king directly depends upon his associates and follows their instructions, he is happy. Similarly, when his associates offer their gifts and activities to the king and follow his orders, they are also happy. So this is very much, this little section here in this chapter, it's very much about the relationships amongst devotees, but especially here relationships between the leader, the Kshatriya, and his Brahmana. So who is actually the authority? Is it the Brahmana or is it the Kshatriya? Anyone has an idea? Who is the authority? Both?
I would say the same.
You would say the same?
Brahmanas.
The Brahmanas?
If they're acting like Brahmanas?
If they're acting like Brahmanas,
Krishna.
Krishna. Okay. Good. Krishna is the boss. Nobody thinks it's the Kshatriyas?
Yes, it's
You think it's the Kshatriyas, huh? Little bit. Okay.
In practical things, it's the Kshatriyas.
Yeah.
But they always, in spiritual questions, they always go to the Brahmanas.
Good. See, that it is actually a tricky question because it depends.
Not just spiritual, also practical. But they carry on the guidelines are given by the Brahmanas, but the Kshatriya is actually the one who puts the power behind it, executes it.
And his authority, he makes the decision. You know.
So when the yajna is performed, is the brahmana performing the yajna. But it's more the kshatriya deciding when the yajna will be and if the yajna will be. So it's often like that. When Yudhishthira he made the Rajasuya sacrifice, he was ordered by Krishna or asked by Krishna, make this sacrifice. And then he told the brahmanas. And then the brahmanas, they make all the arrangements. But we can see it in the other way. If the mother to the emperor of the world, she says, you should eat more. You should eat more. You are becoming too thin, or you should eat less. You're becoming too fat. Then that's the authority. Even the king is an adult, at least to some degree. And you will follow your mother. But if the mother will come and say, no, you need to go and war with this state or this province over there, then no, that's not her authority. So it all depends on all the circumstances. Who is actually in charge? Because we know that Kshatriya, he has the right and the last decision. He's the one really, the brahmanas are giving advice. You should do this, you should do this, you should do this. But then it's up to the Kshatriya if you actually want to follow that advice. Why is that? Because he has the responsibility, he will get the reactions. So he's ultimately the person like everything is depending upon. So in that sense he's the authority. Because he's in charge, and if something goes wrong, it's on his plane. It's his plane. So then the brahmana, you just be aloof. Okay, I'll give it advice, but you didn't follow it properly. So it's all up to the Kshatriya, to the king, to the leader, to see that actually things are going on. But he has advisors, and without the advisors, he can't lead. This is an essential principle, and it's not followed in the modern society. And that's why the society, one of the reasons society is going crazy. Because there's no brahmanas, and there's no kshatriyas. There's not even any, there's practically any sutras, practically. There's only lower than that. So no culture. And a place where there's no culture, everything goes crazy. Because it's the culture, it's the underlying, it's what makes everything work. So part of the culture is like leadership means a leader and his advisors. So I found some examples of how the Kshatriya are following the Brahmanas, and that's easy because normally they do. When we hear in Bhagavatam, we can give so many examples of a Brahmana comes and give an advice and the Kshatriya will just follow. So many examples. Dasaraj Maharaj. Vishwamitra Muni, he came and says, please give me a son. And even though it was very, very difficult for Dasaraj, very difficult, he practically couldn't. He even denied to start with. He denied the request of Vishwamitra Muni. But after hearing more advice from Vasishtha and said, actually he will be very safe. Your son, Ramchandra, will be very safe in the forest with this personality. And he says, you have to, it's a Brahmana. And Vishwamitra Muni, he was becoming angry, and Dasaraj, you could see that, said, oh, I'm in trouble here. So he said, okay, you have my son, but please allow Lakshman to come also. So he did, even though it was very difficult, because it was a Brahmana. And even more, even though it's not a king, but a Brahmana following, a Brahmana sannyasi, when this Brahmana came to Hadayodhya's, and Hadayodhya, they were sitting discussing all night. And then Hadayodhya said, I want to give you something. What do you want? Because normally you're giving charity to Brahmanas. So the Brahmana says, Brahmana sannyasi said, I have no assistant. So please give me your son as an assistant. And I think he even says just for a few days, but that will not, it'll be for a long time. And Harayodhya, he's in his mind, he says he's begging not for my son, he's begging for my life. Without Nityananda, without my son Nityananda, I'll not be able to live. And actually he died. But there it's quite relevant, because he thinks of the story, or the history of Dasharatha. And he said Dasharatha, he gave his son, even cost his life. Of course not to Vishwamitra Muni, but when Ramchandra was banished to the forest, that was like Dasharatha couldn't stay alive. So he thought, if I will not follow the order of this Brahman sannyasi, what will Nityananda think of me? What kind of example will I be? So I have to know. But first he went and asked his wife, please, what should we do? This is the Brahman I've asked for our son. And she, as a chaste wife, says, whatever you desire, my husband, or decide, that's what we will do. So he goes to the Brahman and says, here, my son, please take very good care of him. And there, after that, the whole area becomes like a desert, like a ghost town. Everybody, just like when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, everything just becomes like a ghost town. So when Nityananda leaves, what is the place now? Radhadesh. It becomes like a ghost town. And Harayodhya, he stops eating. And eventually leaves his body. Ekachakra. So this is an example of the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and a Brahmana following the higher authority or the higher ashram. I'm not thinking of not following, and there's an obvious example, is Bali Maharaj. So Bali Maharaj, he found out, okay, yeah, why did Bali Maharaj not follow the advice of his guru? What was his, how was it justified?
Well, he was telling him to disobey the order of the Supreme Personality.
Good, yeah, he was going against Krishna. Right? He was going against Krishna's shastric instructions. So there it says you can deny, but otherwise you cannot really deny the orders of a Brahmana or your spiritual master here, especially in this case. Actually, there's one point you can disobey your spiritual master.
When he deviates from the philosophy.
So that's here, yeah? And one more?
When he asks you to get married.
When he asks you to get married. He said, no, I don't want. And so Bali Maharaj, so he was justified. He said, no, I cannot follow your instruction. And for that he's still glorified. That's full surrender to Krishna, to Bali Maharaj, not to Vamanadev. And then another interesting episode is Dhruva Maharaj. And Dhruva Maharaj, after Suruchi, she says, you cannot sit on the lap of your father. Dhruva Maharaj, he runs to his mother, Suniti, and Suniti says, I don't know what to do. Your father has he doesn't love me. I'm just like a maidservant. I have nothing, I can't help you here. But I heard that when the great sages, they are in trouble, they go to the forest. And there they take shelter of Krishna. So if you do that, my son, there you will get your shelter. So now as Dhruva Maharaj, he's just in a way. Okay, 5-year-old boy says, okay, that's what I need to do, that's what I'll do, Kshatriya. And then we know Narada Muni comes. And Narada Muni says, no, that's a good idea. Go and worship Krishna. What is he doing? He's testing him. Saying, you're a small boy, you should be playing. Small insult from your mother, it doesn't matter. Go back to the kingdom and everything will be fine. Time solves everything. Everything will be fine. And he starts preaching to him and giving very good shastric evidence. And Dhruva Maharaj says, I'm sorry, your instruction does not sit in my heart. Because I'm insulted. My stepmother insulted me and I'm angry. So your instruction does not sit in my heart. And then Narada Muni can understand, okay, he's determined. So then he says, okay, you go to the forest. You go to Mahavan, and there you chant this mantra. So Dhruva Maharaj, in 6 months, attains perfection on the order of Nirvana. So first he disobeys the order of his spiritual master, and then he follows. You can say when he gives them the right instruction to go worship Krishna. And then an example more of not following is Dhritarashtra, having so many good advisors. Vidura, Vishmadev, Kripacharya, so many good advisors. But Dhritarashtra is not able to follow because he's too weak and it's too much of a sacrifice. So that may be also there often in our lives, that when the sacrifice becomes too high, they know that I cannot do. So that's the Dhritarashtra weakness in our heart, that we don't really have faith. Because if we have no faith in our authorities, that means ultimately we have no faith in Krishna. Because Krishna is giving authority. Krishna is working through the authorities. So Dhritarashtra is constantly being told, even by his own wife, she said, you have to get rid of your son. Even his own wife told him. And he said the same, I know, but I can't. Your instruction does not sit in my heart. When Vidura was telling him, giving him all kind of evidences, he said, you need to go, you need to leave Duryodhana. He said, I cannot follow. That's the instruction, even though I know it's right, I cannot follow. So first of all, a leader has to be qualified. If the leader is not qualified, he can have so many Brahmins, it won't help. And of course, the Brahmins have to be qualified. When Yudhishthira, he was king, there was this thing is mentioned there in Krishna leaves for Dwaraka, 13th chapter, 1st canto. Krishna leaves for Dwaraka. There before, all Yudhishthira's qualities are mentioned. Such a king, such an emperor. That said, even all the hills, the mountains, the active drugs, the rivers, the hills, so many things were paying tax to the king. So how can the rivers pay tax to the king? How can the mountains pay tax to the king? Anyone know?
Water and
Water
and
jewels and all kind of diamonds, and this is coming from the mountains, from the earth. And so many things, pearls are coming from the ocean. So that was their abundance, because they were paying their tax to the king. So that's why it says pragya, that everyone is actually dependent. Everyone needs an authority, and everyone needs to be protected. And pragya actually means just that a king, he sees everyone as his pragya. Not just human beings, but the animals, the trees, all living entities should be protected. And because he was living like that, it said Yudhishthira had no enemy. So everything was there in abundance. There was no scarcity. There was no scarcity of food. The weather was perfect. Everything was perfect because he was a perfect king. That's the power of having a perfect leader, because it satisfies Krishna. A person who is capable of taking care of his subordinates, his dependents, there's nothing more satisfying to Krishna. So that's what authority means. A person who is actually capable of taking care, giving shelter, being a leader. So it's the most important role in our whole society as leaders. Both the Brahmana leaders and the Kshatriya leaders. Both are very, very important. So that's why this relationship is so extremely important. Because if the Kshatriya the leader doesn't have a good Brahmana, he will make the wrong decisions. Why is that? Because he's influenced by passion. Nature of a Kshatriya, he's influenced by passion. But a Brahmana is not. He's supposed to be purely in the mode of goodness. You know, everyone, there's always a tinge of this, but this is the nature of the Brahmana, stay in the mode of goodness. So that means completely detachment, and that means knowledge, vijnana, realizations. So they know what to do. They know what is right and what is wrong, because they know Shastra. And it says one who has a guru, he knows everything. One who is capable of following Shastra, he knows everything. Because the Shastra is a guru. But we need both. We need the living Guru, and we need the other living Guru, the Shastra. We need the scriptures. Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Hear it so often, but it's such an important part of our lives. If it's not, we will not make very much advancement. Because advancement comes from pleasing Krishna. And Krishna is pleased when we actually are capable of following his system. That's what we are trying, that's what we are learning in Vaidisarva Bhakti. How to follow the culture of the spiritual world. So the system Krishna has set up, giving us in Bhagavatam, is the culture of the spiritual world. This is how things are going on. Even Krishna, as Madhamangal, his Brahmana advisor, and Krishna when he's here, he has his spiritual master. But otherwise, you're always asking Madhamangal. They're making a lot of fun and like this, but he is like, Madhamangal is Brahmana. But he's a fun Brahmana, because he's in the spiritual world, he's a friend of Krishna. So Krishna likes fun. But nonetheless, Krishna is following the advice of Madhamangal. And when Madhamangal, he always ends up saying, whatever the result, we need to have some ladders. That's where they have to end up. That's the result, that's the prayojana here. Because they're in the spiritual world. This is not the prayojana in the material world. Here, everything needs to be taken care of, managed, and everything like that. In the spiritual world, the whole thing just ends up in ladders. That's real enjoyment. So Madhamangal is helping Krishna attaining that goal. And Krishna is like acting as the Kshatriya, and together they are working very nicely. So sometimes we hear even of following a bad authority. Like Yudhishthira, he had Dhritarashtra as his authority. But he was following him. Why? To set the example. Yat yat acharati shrishtas tat eva tadajana. So yat pramanam karati lokas tatanavadant. Whatever action a great man performed, common will follow. Whatever standard is set by his exemplary acts, the whole world will pursue. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, just to set the example, he was going through so many austerities. An example we can use in our lives when things are difficult. When it's difficult to really surrender to the authorities, when it's very difficult. Think about Yudhishthira. He had everything. At that point he was practically the emperor. He had more opulence than Duryodhana. Much more opulence. So Duryodhana, he cheated into this gambling match. And Dhritarashtra, he had his father, Duryodhana had his father, Dhritarashtra, call Yudhishthira. And Yudhishthira could not say no. Dhritarashtra is my superior, he's the emperor, so I need to surrender to him. So he's calling me for a gambling match, I'll go gamble. That's why later when Draupadi, she says, I can understand, I can maybe understand that you lost your brothers, you lost all your wealth, you lost your palaces, but how can you lose me? And Yudhishthira said very nonchalantly, I want to teach the whole world what gambling is. What is the result of gambling? To set an example. And to follow the authority, most important. So he lost everything for this one sacrifice. He could just have said no. Dhritarashtra, he proved himself and that authority. Dhritarashtra, he proved himself a wicked person. So why should I follow him? I have a responsibility. I have my brothers to take care of. Actually, Krishna is asking me to be the ruler of the planet. So how can I disgrace everything? How can I lose everything? How can I squander away all this money I accumulated? Not for my pleasure, but for the pleasure of the kingdom. But just to teach this one example, he gives up that. He makes that sacrifice. Whereas the Dhritarashtra, he's just the opposite. He's getting very good advice, but he's not capable of following. Even later, when the whole war is over and Dhritarashtra lost everything, he's still living there in the palace with Yudhishthira. And Vidura, he can come back and he preaches to him. He says, what kind of person are you? You just, everything is lost. You have lost your father, you have lost your sons, you have lost your family, you have lost your well-wishers. You're getting old, your teeth are getting loose, you're coughing up mucus, your liver is defective, you have all these problems, you're dying, man. And still you're living here like a household dog eating the remnants of Bhima, whom you tried to kill. Actually, I can read the whole thing here directly from the Bible. Vidura is going directly, he's really giving him the whole source here to wake him up. So Vidura says, your father, brother, well-wishers and son are all dead and passed away. You've been blind from your very birth, and recently you've become hard of hearing. Your memory is shortened and your intelligence is disturbed. Your teeth are loose, your liver is defective, and you're coughing off mucus. Alas, how powerful are the hopes of a living being to continue his life? Rarely, you are living just like a household dog and eating the remnants of food given by Bhima, whom you tried to kill by arson, etc. Despite your unwillingness to die, even at the cost of your honor, your miserly body will certainly dwindle and deteriorate like an old garment. And then it says, he is certainly a first-class man who awakens and understands, either by himself or from others, the falsity and misery of this material world, and thus leaves homes and relatives without letting them know, and fully dependent on Paramatma. So after that, Dhritarashtra comes to his senses. Vidura had just been on pilgrimage, he had all his Shakti, and he comes and he just gives it to Dhritarashtra. You're just like a dog. What kind of disgrace? You were the emperor of the world, and now you're just like a dog. You're not following the instruction of Shastra. So now you better go. Right? You have nothing more to live for. Now it's time to renounce. Now it's time to... He doesn't even say he should become Dhira and Naratama. That's the words he uses. So he says, at least you just become a Dhira, just become a sober person. You can become the highest of living beings. You can follow the highest path of direct devotional service, but at least to renounce and become a yogi. You can become a pure devotee, you're not capable, you're not ready to that. But at least become a yogi. So he does, and Gandhari follows him, chaste life. So this complete dependence we have on the devotees like Vidura, coming and dragging us out of our illusion, waking us up from our slumber, spiritual slumber, waking us up with the words of reality. And without this dependence on the devotees, we're finished. If we're not capable of living up, being completely dependent upon the devotee, we will lose our Shakti. It's simply taken away. That's again Krishna's system. He's giving us. We're dependent on our spiritual master, Siksha and Diksha, and we're dependent on the devotees just close to us. That's why everyone should be honored. Everyone should give them respect, but especially devotees, because they are our saviors. And as persons dedicating their life to Krishna, nothing can be higher than that. That deserves respect. Well, I will not get into all of it. We spoke recently about all the different levels of respect. But everyone needs that kind of respect. Everyone should be given. That's why the most important verse we have is Tanada Bhisunichina. That if you're capable of being humble and submissive and give respect to others without expecting respect for yourself, then you can chant Hare Krishna. So we often think, why am I not making more rapid progress? Here's the solution. We hear it every day. Hopefully, we're all reciting this verse every day. So we hear it every day how important it is to follow these instructions. Still is so difficult. Still is so extremely difficult to take shelter of the devotees, to understand the worth and value of the devotees association. So until we learn that, the mantra will not really manifest. The power is there. Hare Krishna is unlimited powerful. But the name, Krishna in that form, simply withdraw himself if you're not following the culture. So that's why it doesn't work.